5-minute break
in a best of 3. And I was just like, well, this is probably going to be 2-0 for me, so I'm going to take my break right now.
All right, let's go ahead and hop into game number 2. It's going to be on Whirlwind.
You know, Ben, before we can go ahead and introduce the players, what I still think is the craziest thing about the last game is that Oz defended a Blink Stalker all-in without making a single Zealot. Now, normally, if you just make Stalkers, there is a small window for Blink Stalkers to just blink on top of an Immortal, then pick up the second Immortal, and after that, you just start microing your gateway units against an army that, you know, has no range and then or has no blink, and then you will be able to save enough units and win. What prevents a blink on top of the Immortals is normally Zealots. Oz did not make a single Zealot, yet was somehow able to come out victorious.
It was impressive. I was more surprised that he was able to go so incredibly early with his expansion and to still have no real issue defending that one base aggression. Like this.
Well, I mean, one gate expand has been quite standard in PvP for a long time. I think that Stargate openings are actually better against it because then you can lift up the Immortal after you force out the early Photon Overcharge with Phoenixes. That all-in might be harder to hold up than the Gateway all-in, but still, without a single Zealot and the fact that you know, the way that he opened, I also felt that MacSed should have pushed more with his first 5 Stalkers. Forced out the Photon Overcharge, and after that just like strike immediately because Oz didn't have that many units by then. Anyways, it's all history, man. It doesn't really matter anymore what could have and would have and should have.
Because we got a new game on our hands down here in the bottom right-hand corner, leading 1-0. The Red Protoss player is EG Oz.
Shout out to Funkadelic.
Yeah.
And Adabisi.
Of course. True innovators in their fields. Up at the top left, Oz's opponent trailing 0-1 from Invictus Gaming and from China. It is MacSed.
Yeah. MacSed fans were a lot louder instead of game 1.
They were feeling a little deflated right now after seeing their hope.
MacSed played a really cool game on Whirlwind. Greetorp just showed us a small part of that game when he played against Wangzin. It was kind of a crazy game, and we saw MacSed falling back to what he knows best and what he perhaps feels most comfortable with. And they're just getting expanded in a certain phase of the game, then getting a lot of Colossus out. Then I kind of felt that Wangzin had a beautiful transition, but eventually MacSed was just able to avoid the fight against the Tempest all the time. Of course, Tempest kind of like Brute Lords, you know, they were powerful units, but also really slow. And also, I was kind of blown away by MacSed that game because I thought he was playing, you know, beautiful. He did everything right, without seeing everything.
Mm-hmm. So far, it's pretty normal-looking stuff here for both these players. Stalkers being built. Mothership Core already on the way for Oz. It's a couple seconds faster than MacSed, but not so much. Second gate started for MacSed, so it'll be the same 3-Stalker opening we saw last time. And Oz is once again sending that very early probe down to the low ground and taking that fast 1-gate fast expand. Is this the same build TT1 was experimenting with?
No, TT1, like that's a different build, and that was the build that was around for a long time. That was like Zealot, Sentry, then Stalker, Mothership Core, because then you build up enough energy as well. I feel that this build might be very susceptible to just like a straight up 3-gate or a 4-gate. And even in that last map, like imagine if he would have just 3-gated without blink, so it would have hit a little faster, or he would have just straight up 4-gated. Yeah, there is a Photon Overcharge at your natural, but what if he just ignores it and runs up the ramp? There's only a single force field. After the gateway he makes a robo. He has so little force field. I feel that this build is very vulnerable to certain pressure builds, and I think a Stargate build can be perfect against it as well, but I said it in the start of the game. I feel that Stargate builds, as crazy as it sounds, are like the best case scenario against these 1-gate fast expands with a robo, because you can also turn it into a macro game if you want, but just the all-in is super strong.
The fact that Stargate's proxied means that we're probably going to see an Oracle first, but there's no reason why MacSed wouldn't make Phoenixes after realizing.
There is a Void Ray build like this as well, where they just use the Void Rays and then you force out a lot of Stalkers, and the Stalkers have to shoot the Void Rays, and your Gateway units can deal with the Immortals. We will see. But even Phoenixes, if you would mess up on Phoenixes, it would also be good, because he could force out an early Photon Overcharge. Where is Oz's Mothership Core, Ben?
It is...
Why do I not find it?
It's right below his natural. So
he's waiting with Photon Overcharge.
I guess he wants to have that extra couple of units before he casts it.
He's still going to be... Oh, Time Warp going down. He's going to be forced to cancel. No, Force Field's going down.
He actually chases these Stalkers away. Nothing really dying just yet. There is an Oracle being built off of that proxy Stargate.
Oz has no vision at all. And this Oracle could hit very hard. Oz is probably going to sit Actually, Oz is kind of suspecting this. It wouldn't be the first time he's going to have to deal with this. Man, that's beautiful play by Oz.
Yeah, incredible game sense. 2 Stalkers going to come back just in time, and this Oracle is going to make its way into the mineral line, but still it will get a couple of probe kills. Great game sense from Oz. But what is he going to do about his front door, Kev? He has to cast the Photon Overcharge. Immortal is there as well to chase out the Stalkers of MacSed.
And that is what he wanted to wait with. That's indeed beautiful game sent by Oz. He didn't really lose a lot of probes, but the Void Ray follow-up is still going to be scary, and it's still going to hit very, very hard. MacSed making a second Void Ray right now. Ooh, it's going to be so hard for Oz to hold this. I actually don't know how he's going to hold it. Maybe he's just going to force field all the gateway units out. That is hope right now. He has 3 force fields, so yeah, that could definitely be his plan. But even then, he has so little production compared to MacSed.
Force field probably going to be his best bet at this point. That Oracle's still alive and still able to be a little bit annoying. Is just dancing around and scouting right now. Second Void Ray is about to be out, and when it comes, I think we'll probably see the attack from MacSed.
Also making a 3rd gateway now as well, and he warped in a 4th sentry, by the way, Ben. That's very important. So yes, he is definitely just relying on force fielding all the gateway units out right now, and then only dealing with the Void Ray with maybe a Photon Overcharge soon, or the couple of range units that he has. Force fields are going to be really important.
He's dealing with the Oracle in the back of his main base, still manages to get the force fields off, though. Void Ray is going to charge up and start to rain down, and there is not enough anti-air in this army, Kev.
Photon Overcharge gets casted, though, at the very last second.
Last second Photon Overcharge, and that's going to buy some time. Oracle stayed alive. Well, actually dies to the Photon Overcharge, so I spoke too soon.
Oh, man. If he wouldn't have casted that Photon Overcharge, would have been curtains right there and then. Game over. Absolutely no chance. Now there is a small chance. Oz is up 8 workers. You might as well just make an Immortal too, even though I guess he doesn't want to do it because of the gas, but yeah, he has enough money to easily produce out of 3 gates all the time, so he might as well just get an extra Immortal. He's going to have to hold one more time, and he has 7 Stalkers. It's going to be 3 Void Rays soon, and it's going to be 3 charged up Void Rays.
Photon Overcharge will soon have expired. How
42 army supply.
Is Oz going to hold this again?
He can't really rely on force fields anymore. He has 2 sentries and he only has a single force field. Doesn't even have a guardian shield.
There's also a 3rd Void Ray. Here come the Zealots.
Hold of the century again, Ben.
We're going to have to wait and see. Here we go. The final attack. MacSed making his way into the natural expansion. Immortals positioned well, but they're firing at Zealots. The Void Rays, one of them does fall. These Stalkers are dying very fast. Second Void Ray gets low, but is microed back just in time, and MacSed will have enough, Kev.
Yep, all the Stalkers are dead right now. Single Void Ray remains. Couple of units getting wiped in. These Immortals are still alive, though. As long as they are alive, Oz might be able to warp in just enough Stalkers. Maybe it's not absolutely over yet.
One Immortal falls. Second one still firing. He was shooting at a Zealot for a little bit too long, though, and he's going to go down as well. And it's not quite over, but it's kind of over.
5 Stalkers against 3 right now. 2 of them being wiped in a kind of unfortunate spot. The Void Ray is still alive. Beautiful micro by MacSed, and I think right now MacSed has done it. He's wiping in more units. I don't think he's going to buy enough time for a Photon Overcharge. And Oz, despite having more workers and being on 4 gates at the moment, it is not going to be enough.
Yep. Second Void Ray joins the fleet here for Oz. Both of them are going to charge up, and
Void Rays are so good against Stalkers. It's just not fair, man.
As excellent as Oz has controlled this, it's an inevitable outcome, I fear.
He lost a lot of probes now as well. Only 22 probes remaining, so it's going to be hard for him to produce constantly out of these 4 gates that he has. Kind of lacking gas too. Mining off simulate as well. Oh, that was close though, and I think Oz has put up a pretty good hold for a long time. The game sense early on was beautiful, but this is such a strong follow-up with the Void Rays. It forces you to make a lot of Stalkers defensively, but you know the Stalkers are not going to be that good against the Zealots, but you have to, otherwise you can't deal with the Void Rays. But even when you start fighting the Void Rays, 3 charged Void Rays is just crazy.
Yep. Even 1 charged Void Ray is enough to cause some serious headaches, as we see Oz continuing to try and make something happen here, and he's put on a good show for us, showing some good control, but the numbers are just not gonna work out in his favor, as he's losing units and MacSed is not. As I say, a Stalker falls.
Second Stalker falls as well. Ben,
what is going on? Is Oz gonna make the hold of the century?
No.
But
he's still trying. We can see that MacSed's macro is slipping up a little bit as well, as he went up to 28 probes. He's gonna drop a natural now in his expand. This wasn't an all-in, guys. Not at all. I had a backup plan.
14-minute natural expand. Standard. Elfie would be proud.
This is how I would play my PvPs. It's really cool when you're streaming and then in the last moment you drop 2 more nexus. Like, man, look at my sick macro. MacSed shutting down Oz. Oz still hanging in there. Of course, with a force field, he might be able to macro up a little bit of one base, because at the end of the day, MacSed has nothing to crush force fields right now. And there's no need for him to get super over eager, run up that ramp, try to finish the game here and now. But Oz also knows if he's going to sit back, he's going to have a very hard time.
Oz comes down the ramp, kills the Void Ray, and is going to micro against these Zealots.
Oh, beautiful force field.
That money force field. The game changer, the great equalizer. GG says Oz.